Following England's comfortable 2-0 victory over the Republic of Ireland, we discuss our takeaways from Lee Carsley's first England match. We analyse how he's got the best out of Jack Grealish by deploying him in a new role, and whether Anthony Gordon's done enough to earn himself a starting spot in this England side. We also discuss selection headaches with fitting Palmer, Foden and Jude Bellingham in this team, and who should start in the defence for the game against Finland. This is what we learned from Lee Carsley's first England match. Alright, let's talk about what we learnt then from Lee Carsley's first match as England manager. Harry, how would you summarise the 2-0 win against Ireland?
Refreshing, I think is the right way to put it. If it's nice to see an England side dominate against a weaker opposition and to take advantage, really, the fact that England are a stronger team, were the better team on the day, and played quite good football. I think 2 goals is a little bit disappointing. I think England would have wanted to score more because Ireland aren't very good.
Yeah.
But it was the performance that mattered more than the result, and I think the performance showed a massive improvement.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it was the first 45 was quite enjoyable to watch. I think the second half dragged a little bit, but overall, I think if you take that first half in isolation, it's a sign of really good things to come for Lee Carsley. Let's look then at how the two teams lined up. Obviously, we're focusing on England, but if you are an Irish viewer, then you can look to the left of the screen and see that monstrosity, very much a Christmas tree formation that was going on. Obviously, that 5-3-2 transitioned into a bit more of a 5-4-1 at times, with Bene dropping deep, and then when they went forwards, it tended to look a bit like a 5-2-3. So a bit of fluidity there, a bit of movement. The more interesting stuff, though, was with England. So switching to a 4-4-2, but this isn't a Sam Allardyce or Tony Pulis 4-4-2. It's a very interesting 4-4-2. Obviously, the lineup, if you didn't watch the game, was Pickford in goal, a back four of Alexander-Arnold, Guehi, Maguire and Colwill. Then across the forward midfield, it was Saka, Rice, Mainu and Grealish, and then a front line of Kane and Gordon. I've seen a lot of people incorrectly say that Grealish was playing attack midfield, and obviously technically he did drift into that position a lot, but there's not really positions in Carsley's system. We saw this at the U21 Euros in 2023. He likes his players to have a lot of freedom. So we saw Grealish drift inside, we saw Gordon drift out wide, we saw Trent inverting. There was a lot of fluidity. And it's something we've not really seen with this England team. It was enjoyable to watch. There was a lot of common sense with positioning that we just didn't see under Southgate. Grealish is great in central areas, so Carsley's come away with maximising that. Gordon's great out wide, but he's not great in defensive areas. So how do you maximise that? Trent's really good in central areas and getting forward, but not great defensively at times. And I think Carsley's done really well to maximise all the strengths in this squad, and it's something that I think bodes really well for the future.
Yeah, very much so. I think, as you say, it's a big positive. Carsley clearly knows how to get the best out of players while nullifying their weaknesses, and that's a huge thing. It doesn't really matter when you're playing Ireland in Group B of the Nations League or whatever it is, but when you get to, if Carsley's still in the job, when you get to those bigger games, it's very good to have a manager that knows how to kind of stop your weaknesses being revealed, really, because everyone goes, okay, let's attack Trent because he isn't the best defensively at times. Carsley knows how to stop that happening, so that isn't going to be a problem, and I think it's very smart. Carsley's clearly a very smart manager.
Yeah. Let's talk about then some of the interesting tactical things we saw. I thought that there was a huge shift in mentality. The intent was very much positive in this game, where perhaps under Southgate you could argue it's very much negative. I thought, as I say, lots of fluidity, there's a lot of freedom to roam, and also a lot of pace. When we got on the ball, we did move it forwards quickly. We did play in attacking areas quickly. If you think of the combination for the Declan Rice goal, it was a really nice 1-2, wasn't it? And then, the
Grealish goal.
The Grealish goal, yeah. Rice involved in that, and obviously Rice took his goal well as well. Great to see the 2 Irish lads scoring against Ireland, of course, or 2 players who've represented Ireland at youth level. But yeah, and I think that added, there was a lot of fanfare around the game. Obviously, we had the Carsley national anthem thing, which I think is a complete non-story that a small number of the nation are blowing out of proportion. But fair enough. If you want to complain about that, then feel free to go and read The Sun. I think as well, obviously we saw the Irish fans with a lot of animosity, and I completely understand that to a certain extent. Well, back in the day, I don't think it's all about Grealish and Rice.
Ireland aren't very good. They need to admit that. When England rock up, it's their it's their big game, it's their derby game, and they get played off the water. I think Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty were going around like prats just smashing into people and just having a bit of a jolly up.
Coleman had a really tough game, but I don't know if that was him. He was very isolated at times. Very isolated, and I think there was a lot of naivety in Ireland's system.
Malumbi did going around fighting, I'm going to lump into Grealish, I'm going to smash into this bloke. He's a terrible footballer. I think it's a shame that, because I feel for Ireland that part, it's a shame that players like him get to represent the national team, because he's a really poor... He is, come on, look, he's not a good footballer. He runs around just trying to start fights.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective to have. I do think you need a bit of steel in there, because you've got in there Will Smallbone, who's a really good creator, and then you've got Sammy Smolix, who's more of an attacking player. So you do need a bit of steel in there. But I do get you saying there are some technical limitations with Malumbi, but equally, he has played some decent football under Carlos Corberán. They do play some decent football at West Brom, so... Yeah, if he is still the manager, I don't keep up enough with West Brom to know if he is still in charge, but I do know they were doing something good last season at least. Thought also the passing was really good. There's, as I say, a lot of combination play in the final third. That was really good to see. And actually, defensively, the pressing system looked organised and committed. What we saw in the Euros was just sitting off defences rather than going and pressing. When we did press, it often looked... It was just Kane running, or... The press was a bit disorganised. It feels like Carsley's nailed a lot of these basic principles that were just ignored.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was this sort of refreshing. I mean, no, that's how you summarised the game at the start. I think that's spot on, because I think a lot of it was just that you've had the same manager for 8 years.
Yeah.
And once you bring any change, it's going to feel really refreshing in that regard. So I think, he did a really good job.
And I think my main takeaway was, for the first time, Harry Kane has played for England for years, but I think the Ireland game was the first game where we actually saw England utilise the fact that he drops deep. At Southgate, he'd drop deep and then he'd just kick it to no one, because England didn't play to that. Carsley played to that by having Gordon. When Kane dropped deep, there was actually someone still up front. We didn't just go, our striker's now playing as part of our midfield four, and we haven't got a striker, so don't worry about that. We actually utilised Kane dropping deep, and we adapted it to it, and it worked well. And clearly that is a tool that England can use, rather than Kane just dropping deep and leaving no presence out in the front line. So that was definitely a very big positive to see on Saturday.
Let's talk about the dominance that England imposed then. Obviously a 2-0 victory, but as you can see from the match statistics, it was a very comfortable victory. 76% possession to 24%, 2.75 expected goals to 0.66, 16 shots to 6, 9 on target to 1, 36 touches in the opposition box to 12, 7 big chances for England, 6 of them were missed. For Ireland, 1 big chance, and obviously they missed that, and England 2 yellow cards to Ireland's 4. So I think the big statistic there that does worry me a little, well, it doesn't worry me much, I would say, I'll take that back, but I would say I was concerned about the fact that we missed 6 big chances out of 7, but equally, it does show Carsley's tactic is working. We just didn't put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah,
and Carsley can't go on and do
exactly.
that.
On a good day, we'll score all 7 of them. On a bad day, we'll miss 6 of them. So
still 1-2 now, though. So.
If we miss 6 against Ireland, but we score all 7 against France in like the World Cup or the Euros, I don't care, because realistically, it's the fact that we created the chances that matters. And I mean those stats are the literal saying that you get played off the park. Ireland were played off the park. They didn't stand a chance. They barely touched the ball, and England, practically were playing around cones for most of the game.
Yeah, England probably should have scored more. Perhaps the reason they didn't, though, Charmin Kelleher, a real bright light for Ireland in this game. He got an 8.5 football rating, and for very good reason. He made 7 saves, only conceded 2 goals from 4.03, so that's a goals rated of 2.03. 42 touches, 8 recoveries, a high claim in there, 4 throws, as I say, a lot of saves, 4 diving saves. A really good performance from Kelleher, really showing his quality. Do you think he should leave Liverpool? Because obviously we've not really seen him play any consistent football because he is the bench goalkeeper at Liverpool. They've now signed Georgi Mamardashvili, so it very much feels there isn't a future as a starting role for Kelleher. He definitely gives me Emiliano Martinez vibes, where he was always this bench figure, or this squad rotation figure at Arsenal. Then he got his move to Aston Villa, and suddenly he blossomed. Do you think we could see the same for Kelleher, and should he leave?
Very much so. I think he really should. I felt sorry for him on Saturday, because he was kind of by himself. As like, the Ireland defence were like training cones. They were terrible, and the poor bloke was left stranded for most of the game. And he did well. He put in a very good performance, saying that he had to face so many shots and chances. But definitely, I think he's a very, very handy keeper. We've seen some brilliant cameos for him. You think Arsenal in the Carabao Cup a few years back. He's played in numerous cup competitions, European fixtures. He's a very capable goalkeeper. For me, he could play for half the teams in the Premier League. And I think it's weird that he'd choose to play backup at Liverpool. Now he's going to be third choice. He should definitely leave. 100%. He's way too good to play as a third choice keeper.
Yeah, I mean, he'll still be second choice this season, and then Mohamed Ashweli's coming in. Whether he'll come in as first choice and Arsenal will leave, or what's going to happen there, we're not exactly sure yet. But yeah, I definitely feel that he should leave to get more game time, because clearly there isn't any route to the 100%. Starting goalkeeper jersey. You're never going to get that off of Alisson. You're never going to get that off of Mohamed Ashweli now. So yeah, it definitely feels like he should explore his options. I'm sure a lot of those bottom half of the table Premier League sides would be very keen to take him on. So yeah, I think he should explore his options. Let's talk about some of the stars then for England. Jack Grealish first. It felt like, I said literally on Friday, it felt like a weird inclusion to have him in the squad, because he's not really performed at the level you would want for Manchester City. But I think Carsley's comments after the game were really telling as to why he picked him, saying he knows the quality of Jack Grealish, and that's not something that was ever up for debate. He just wanted to see how he'd play in this sort of system. And I definitely think he looked a lot more comfortable drifting into that central area, and obviously he took his goal really well as well. Yeah,
definitely. I agree with Andros Townsend, who on commentary said that it was so good to see that so good to watch Grealish playing in a free roaming role, or a very fluid role, because we see when he plays for City, he's in this pet rigid winger system where you don't run anywhere and you pass it to the bloke next to you, and you don't really. It's a very rigid system. You barely move. Whereas it was great to see him, and I think he is better when he's allowed to run, when he's allowed to take the ball and be fluid and move everywhere. And it was very nice to see him playing a system like that.
Yeah, however, I do think it opens up some really interesting questions for this England side, because he played well in that game, but how does he start? Because in that attacking midfield type role, I think you've got Jude Bellingham, who'd be wanting to play there. You've got Cole Palmer, who'd be wanting to play there, and Phil Foden. I personally don't see how on earth you actually build a functional England team because you're going to have to omit someone. It just feels like Grealish might be unfortunate in the regard there are so many quality players.
The thing is, yes, Grealish is quality, but I think all three of those players that you've just named are better, and that is the harsh reality of international football sometimes, is that you aren't the best player or national you aren't the best player for your country, and that is a shame, because Grealish is a good player, but he can't really help that he's got three of the best attacking midfielders in the world in front of him.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how any two of those three get in, let alone all three of those players. I don't see how you can play Bellingham, Palmer and Foden together. I just don't see how that works. You'd think now that Anthony Gordon playing in that sort of striker left-wing hybrid role, well, that doesn't really suit Bellingham, Palmer or Foden. So where do they really... I think Palmer will probably compete with Saka for the right wing, and then it'll be rotation between Bellingham and Foden. But that creates a really interesting dynamic where one of them isn't in the England team.
Yeah.
But I think from watching the Euros in Germany, you can't play both of them because it's just not functional. No matter how good these players are, if the squad doesn't function, why play them?
Yeah.
They're great options off the bench. If you're looking, if we're saying that Saka and Bellingham are starting, for example, then and you're looking at 65 minutes and maybe England need to go on a knockout competition, and you bring on Cole Palmer and Phil Foden, that is incredible depth. Keep it as that, rather than shoehorning them into positions that don't really fit them. Gordon in that striker moving into left wing type role is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I thought he was fantastic. Let's talk about him as well. Electric, dynamic, his movement was incredible, and he clearly understands what Lee Carsley wants from him. They work together in the U21s, and you can see bits from what they did there coming into this England setup. Obviously, it's not an identical system, but really positive signs.
Yeah, Carsley used the Island game to ask Anthony Gordon a few questions, and Gordon answered all of them with flying colours. He was brilliant, and he has created a huge dilemma in the forward department, because once Ollie Watkins is back, Do you drop? Gordon was so good that some people probably render him undroppable. But then, do you drop Harry Kane? England's all-time leading goal scorer. That's criminal. So Gordon has done really well. He's put himself in a position where he's caused Carsley such a problem because either you've got to choose between Gordon, Watkins, and Kane, and that's a very, very tough decision. But for Gordon, his performance, he should be very happy because his performance was good enough that he's put himself in that conversation with those other two strikers.
Yeah, definitely. I think Watkins could play that Gordon role, but I think we'd more expect to see him in that Kane position. So that's going to be a really interesting fight there between those two. I think Gordon's put himself in a position because of Carsley's system where he's one of the more undroppable players, one of the more key players. So it's going to be interesting to see what Carsley does going forwards with this side. Obviously, there's a lot of young players here, so it's not like any of them are going anywhere anytime soon. We think Kane will probably still be here 2026. I'm not sure about 2028. It's going to be interesting. I know he'll probably want to play the home tournament, but equally he'll be, 37, 38 by the time we're playing that. So I can't really see him playing in that tournament. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what Carsley does going forwards. But yeah, I thought Gordon was excellent. His movement was fantastic. We saw a lot of times where Trent was trying to get that ball in behind to Gordon, but even if he couldn't pull that off, Gordon's movement and Gordon's runs in behind were creating space for other players. And actually a large part of that Grealish goal was opened up by space Gordon created. Yeah. So yeah, fantastic game for him. But a lot of positives for England. I thought we actually played really well. Finland coming up tomorrow night. Predictions for that, Harry? Should that be very, very comfortable?
Yeah, I think once again it should be a dominating performance for England. I'll hope to see a few more goals and hopefully we can take a few more of our chances. But the main thing is that we see a very similar, if not better, performance. You'd expect to see some changes. Maybe he'll give players like Madueke or Angel Gomez a try out, but we'll see what happens. Either way, I think it'll be a good performance.
Yeah, of course, we saw Gomez come on in the second half against Ireland. I thought he looked really comfortable. So I think we could see him from the outset against Finland. Sorry, I think that would be really interesting to see. Other debutants, we could see Tino Livramento involved, which would be interesting to see. I think that's a good Morgan Gibbs White as well. Of course, Madueke. So, yeah.
The second friendly is the one where you're gonna get, Arteta on the phone about Rice and Saka. You have Slot on the phone about Trent. This is the kind of one where you play them in your first friendly, and then the second friendly you go, right, they've played 90 minutes. We won't give them another 90. They've played however many minutes. We're going to shuffle it around a bit. So I'd expect to see some rotation for tomorrow. Yeah,
I think anyone that played 90 in the Ireland game won't play 90 in the Finland game. So yeah, should see a bit of rotation, which would be nice. I think the other issue that we perhaps saw, just to touch on one last thing, is that still playing Harry Maguire just clearly isn't working in that role. And actually Cole will look really good at left back. I think if we are going to do that, Cole's going to be another one who really lays claim to a starting position because not many people can play that left back role. It's got to be someone that's left footed and a centre half, really. So, Jared Branthwaite, would he be able to play? There's a little bit too cumbersome, I think, for that left back role, but I guess he could do it. But yeah, I think Cole was going to be a really key part of that squad. And then you're probably looking at Gurhey, Stones fighting for those and Branthwaite fighting for those other two positions. I think Maguire was at times a limiting factor for England in build-up, so I wouldn't be surprised if they look at dropping him before 2026. I was surprised him included, to be fair. I thought Carsley might drop him altogether, but I'm guessing he wants to give a bit of the harmony from Southgate's time. But yeah, really positive stuff. I think England actually making the fans enjoy the game, entertaining the fans, it's something we've not seen in a while.
Definitely.
So, good stuff. But that is everything for today's video. If you want to go and watch more of our content, there's going to be a video on screen now. But that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.